Okay, this is Brian Jackson. I am here with my friend Jake Merriman, and I'm Brian with Cambio Training, and I've been excited about doing this podcast. You know, Jake, I've talked to you about it, and I've been looking forward to it for quite some time. And just to give you a little bit about who Jake is the CEO and founder of Epic Impact, but there's much more to Jake than just that we will get into. Jake is one of my closest friends and a brother, and we've known each other for probably about a year and a half now. It's been about that long. Just to give you an idea of what the type of person that Jake is that when I asked him to do this podcast, we first talked about doing it up in San Francisco, and he flew out here to Utah. That's where we're at in this beautiful scenery to meet me here. So, Jake, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about who you are, you know, where you're from, a little bit about your background.
Great. Glad to be here. So I grew up in a small town in Sandwich, New Hampshire, and that was a very formative years of my life. Was just growing up in nature like we are here, and so spent some time in Germany and learned how to play soccer, which is also part of like who I am as a leader. Was really informed by the German traditions of extremely high standards for how to show up on the soccer pitch, and studied biochem in college and found myself in sales early on in my career, selling medical devices, and was inspired by the world of transformation and professional development. And I started a sales training company in 2010 in New York. And Epic Impact is like the third iteration of me being a solopreneur and going out there knocking on doors and talking to real estate brokers about training their sales agents, to having a team full of really class act, grade A coaches and trainers that work with the top producing sales reps on the planet. And you know, we really love what we do, and we're passionate about our work, and we love to infuse the self-actualization of a salesperson into leadership, into their daily tactics and outcomes and goals that they have.
Let's talk a little bit more about the self-actualization part that you just spoke of, because I think when most people think of training companies or development companies working with leaders and entrepreneurs and that, self-actualization probably doesn't come up as part of one of the training competencies that you guys provide.
Sure.
So go talk a little bit why that, what's helped you, I mean, how did that come about?
Well, once someone's reached a core level of security and achievement in their life, and if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs and top producing salespeople, they get to a point where they've achieved at a level, and developmentally they're feeling like they've accomplished what they set out to do. And what else is there to do besides hit a bigger commission number or make more sales or grow a bigger business and hire more people and manage and lead more people. And once that has been satiated, there's this feeling inside of a person's heart, like, is really this all worth it? And what's beyond me hitting just my next quota number? And who am I really? And people start to ask themselves questions. We see this a lot with millennials, really asking themselves, like, what is my purpose? What is the purpose? Why am I here? And like, what contribution am I bringing to humanity? And how can I do that through business? And really, we just found that there was an appetite for it out there.
Yeah.
And I know my own questions for this. I left sales because I wanted to self-actualize, and I didn't really know where I could find that, and I invested pretty much everything I ever made selling medical devices, which was a lot of money, in my own personal development, professional development, leadership development, consciousness development, spiritual development. And it took me a good few years to really discover who am I and what's beyond achievement, and how can I include achievement, and really develop the competencies of knowing who I really am, so that I can be who I am and express that fully in whatever role I'm here to play.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I think that, you know, just in saying that, a lot of business leaders, salesmen, they feel like if I earn a certain income, I get to this dollar amount, I've got it made, and then I'll be happy. What you're talking about is something bigger than that. And I think a lot of people, when they do become wealthy, or they do hit those goals that they set out for themselves, they get there and they realize, hey, that's great, but this isn't really what I'm truly after. There's something that's bigger. And you know, when you say self-actualization, what I'm hearing is a little bit more like, you know, awakening. and finding out who they truly are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where have you found the most value for you personally? You know, you and I, we know each other really well, and I think in the last 2 years you've talked about just a monumental change that's started to happen, and I've seen it and I've appreciated it, and it's been an example to me. I went to Epic Impact almost 2 years ago now. It's been about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And when we went to that Epic Impact, you know, it was at the time is the best training I've ever been to. Incredible leadership content, incredible sales development, sales training content. What I'm most excited about the next Epic Impact, which I am going to, by the way, is it feels like there's been a bit of a shift. There's going to be part of that content, and you can talk more about this than I can, but it feels like there's also a really true development of who are you really? And there'll be a meditation part of it. There'll be a discovery part of it, you know, things like that. So you've obviously gone through that. Yeah. You've experienced some of those things. So maybe, you know, what started to shift in you? When did all that really start to happen, and what was that like?
Sure. Well, I figured out that there's a couple ways to really experience who I really am and what I'm here to do. One is to have some type of euphoric, adventurous experience where I'm on the edge and life is asking me to be really present because of that experience. In contrast to that, it's like almost like the polar opposite is also a really good teacher for that, which is to be in solitude and to be in stillness out in nature. I grew up in nature as a child, spent a lot of time in nature, and for me, nature is also one of those ways of experiencing who I really am. So, you know, on my 33rd birthday, I had like this really inspiring and powerful initiation where I felt called to set up this space out in the wilderness in Berkeley in the hills. A really quite a bit of time in the evenings after work out in the woods, just tapping in. I'd camp there overnight, and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd do a morning ritual, and I'd connect with nature, and I'd listen deeply and create the spaciousness inside of myself where I was taking time to empty like all of the thoughts that were being thought throughout the day, all the busyness, all the things that I was reacting to, all the things I was responding to, all the people I was leading and contributing to, and taking time to really reset and find some emptiness. And since then have developed other practices where I don't necessarily have to go out in the woods to find that space of stillness. I'd say it was really 2010 when I started first training real estate agents on sales. I got really hungry because I realized that the same salesperson might have the same script, might have the same office, the same broker, the same manager, and is experiencing radically different results than the person sitting next to them. And I became really insatiable to deliver results to these underperformers and deliver results to the high performers. But I got especially curious around the ones that were in the middle of the pack. How do we take someone who's in the middle of the pack, who knows in their heart that they're a top achiever and they have the capacity, the hunger, the passion, the drive, the intelligence to go out there and hit big numbers. So I started to invest a lot in spiritual development and coaching training and in the human psyche and helping someone discover who they really are and what's their personal way of communicating with the world in which other people want to be with them and receive their value. Most people think real estate agent and they're kind of like, oh, you know, like,
yeah.
That's because most of them have commission breath, and they're not actually showing up as their authentic selves, adding value in a way that's natural for them to add value. So, you know, from the time in the woods and from the time I started coaching and training back in 2010, my spiritual practice has been at the core and center of my practice and who I am, and the core and center of my identity. And that's been really, really rewarding and also really challenging at the same time.
Kind of polarity there.
Big polarity. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I think just an example of that, of just the way that's been a centerpiece to you. Yeah. We were in Lake Powell, what was it, about a little over a year ago. And what I found really just I was watching you. You may not notice that, but you've been an example to me. And I would notice that you would often retire early. You know, everybody else would be chatting and staying up late. You would retire early because you were always very disciplined, and that you'd have an early morning practice and in a routine that you always followed. You would disappear somewhere. I'm sure you were off doing, you know, you were meditating and getting present, and you were being in a beautiful natural setting. Well, one story that you shared with me that really hit home is that you went off you had a jet ski. And you left and you were gone, and all of a sudden you were gone for a long time. You weren't coming back, and everybody's going, uh-oh, where's Jake? Because it just happened to be that day we were leaving to head and leave the lake for good. And you weren't anywhere to be found, hoping this guy's okay. Well, you showed up right at the right time when we were just about to leave. Why don't you just share what happened on that? Because I don't want to tell the whole story, because it's really cool that you, what happened?
Sure, I did my morning practice. I took the jet ski to a little rock area and hopped down on the rocks and hung out. And then I had to make a phone call that morning. So we didn't have service out by the boat. So I cruised over to where the gas dock was, and I put some gas in the jet ski, and I made a quick call. It was like, 5-minute call. It just had to be done. And I went to cruise back in, and I got into this no wake zone between where there's a channel. You probably know where that is in Lake Powell. And the jet ski just died. It just straight turned off. And I tried to start it a couple times, and it just turned over and didn't work. So I sat and I paused, and I listened, and I got really still, and there was boats coming by, and there was a little bit of frustration in my body, and I just connected with that frustration. I let that frustration pass. And I just was with it for a moment, for about 2 minutes, and just connected with it and kind of put my body at rest. And I tapped in so I could really listen to what source was telling me. Like, what was this moment telling me? Were you guys going to come and rescue me in the middle? Like, and I was going to have to wait here, or should I flag down another boat? Like, what's the message from source, from God, from our creator that was sharing with me? What should I do, really? I just wanted to listen coherently so I could have a solution. And I knew if I listened, the right thing would show up through me, and I'd figure it out. So I sat there for about 5 minutes, and I got this hit that, like, the purpose of this jet ski dying here was so I would listen more. And it's even the listening when you're cruising on a jet ski and, like, you're going Mach 10 and you're in life, to really listen to source and integrate listening when I'm still in nature, and also listening when I'm with another or in action somewhere. And the message that I got was, hit the start button and then hit the gas button simultaneously. And when I did that, it kind of sputtered, it turned on, and then it took off, and then it like almost died because I took my hand off the gas, and I put my hand right on the gas again, and it cruised all the way back to the boats. And whatever was going on synchronistically with the jet ski, I don't know how these things happen, but it worked, right? And that's, could have just been the mechanical thing that needed to happen, and there's a lot of things that could have happened there. But for me, what the message was is there was an opportunity to really listen to source in all areas of life.
Yeah, and something that you shared that stuck out was you went deeper that time than the story that I heard. So I appreciate you doing that. But you got frustrated. Yeah. Which I think most human beings would be. Totally. Would all be frustrated in that moment. Yeah. But rather than letting that continue to fester, you felt it. You sat with it. Said, okay, I'm going to allow this to come up. Yeah. Let it pass, and then kept moving, and then kept moving on, and then allowed, what needed to come through, what you needed to do. It's awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Just being still, just being present, taking time to breathe, taking time to center yourself. And you and I were talking as we were walking up here that's where people can really find out who they truly are, and what they're truly called to do. It sounds like that's the work that you guys are doing a lot of. What are some ways or some of the things that you've seen happen with either your work with your company or just working with other people when they start to figure out, okay, what am I really supposed to be doing here? What really makes me, or who really am I?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we're now talking about the intelligence of identity, and an identity is something we believe about ourselves with absolute certainty. It's like, I am this way. Someone who has an identity that they're a top producing salesperson is always going to figure out a way to be a top producing salesperson. And when part of our identity is aligned with our personality and like who we are in the world, this is a positive thing. And especially if they're healthy identities. But if also part of our identity is connected to the fact that we're also space, we're also spaciousness. And if part of me is movement and part of me is spacious, it allows more of source to flow through us if we can really experience spaciousness. So what I've seen in the folks that we lead and serve, who are able to experience more spaciousness, whether it's a hike somewhere where they're able to get some altitude and create space, more of their purpose comes online, more of who they really are and why they incarnated in this time-space reality starts to become really present, and their identity gets an upgrade of, oh, I am actually more like this. And then when that's congruent, we've seen people reflect who they are and reflect that congruency. Now, one really great example of that is John Israel. I don't know if you met John Israel, but
Mr. Thank You, or
right. So he's got Mr. Thank You now, and he's still in a sales role, doing the sales thing, and kicking butt and putting up big numbers and producing at a high level. And he also has this purpose where he's writing thank you cards every day, and he's started this business around increasing the level of gratitude on the planet. And one of his modalities of increasing gratitude is through sales. And one of his modalities of increasing gratitude is through thank you cards that he writes. And one of them is through helping other people write thank you cards and spreading that and rippling that to others. He wants to increase the level of gratitude on the planet by at least 1%. And what a beautiful thing to experience, and to have income go up and purpose go up simultaneously is one of those things that really nourishes our humanity and makes all the challenges that come along with life really worth experiencing those challenges, because there's something that is inspiring us to persevere through, and so challenges seem much smaller. And so the people that we see who are really integrating more spaciousness and more of themselves, they're able to take on more challenges with ease, is how I experience it, and experience that purpose. And that purpose is pulling them versus a quota, pushing them, or a manager pushing them. Yeah. Their vision is pulling them to the future.
Yeah, and with John Israel being a great example, I mean, he wrote, was it 2 or 5 thank you notes every day?
It was 5 thank you cards every day for a year.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick math. I mean, we're talking, what, 1,600, 1,800 thank you cards? That's incredible to be able to do that. Wow. On that note, Jake, what are you most grateful for right now in your life? What do you feel gratitude for?
So it's like moments like this that I feel really grateful.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, I mean, just like being out here in
That's
nature,
a great answer.
Birds chirping, a brother that I love and care about, and I just really believe in you and trust you with my life. And you're one of these people that's a real rare find. And for me, what I'm most grateful for are the people in my life that I feel like really see me, and I'm willing to be vulnerable with and really share like who I am and what's on my heart and what my life's all about. And those people who are really curious, where they dig in and they ask questions, and they want to be in my heart, and they want to have a level of relationship that is authentic and real and powerful, where there's like no agenda of like, oh, like, well, if I have a relationship with this person, that's going to like help me, and like I can somehow It's just like, I see you, I get you, and I love you, and there's something in our relationship that is serving us both to be in a relationship that is maybe not so tangible, and that goes beyond the knowingness. And yeah, there's plenty of ways we can create value exchange for each other, and we know those things, but there's also something more going on, and why we're in friendship. I'm just mostly grateful in my life right now for those people.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and thank you for saying that about
sure.
me. That really that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I think most people, when you go to work every single day, if you feel like you could be truly just yourself, your complete authentic self, without any judgment, without any worry about, okay, am I doing it this right way, just being you. And you talked a little bit about that earlier as well. How much happiness or how much ease would there be in our lives if that's the way that it was all the time?
Yeah.
And I think about this. So you and I went to my son's soccer game earlier today and saw those little kids running around and playing,
cool,
and it was fun. But what I love about kids is I think they can really just be themselves without any fear of, hey, what's so-and-so thinking of me? I'm just going to be me. Yeah. I'm just going to do me. Totally. Type of a thing.
Your son was really committed to being being himself this morning, by the way. He was he was very determined to express himself. I actually just really loved that, Tough parenting moments. I loved how you showed up as a leader to your son, but man, he's just was wanting to be himself. It's beautiful to see that. Yeah. You're a great dad, man.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
It's really
I
cool.
really appreciate you saying that.
It's really cool.
What are some of the goals or aspirations that you have going on for you right now? What are some things that you're wanting to create moving forward for you?
So it's like the primary thing that's creating is really creating the best version of myself is really at the core, and that's really just allowing creation itself to remold me into being the leader that I'm here to be, and to steward the mission that I'm here to steward. And that's a constant practice. I believe the foundation of everything is like our capacity to lead ourselves, to be ourselves. And if we can do that, then we can lead each other, lead others, and lead teams, and lead a culture. And to me, that's my primary practice is to lead myself, to be myself. And to lead the team members of Epic to be themselves, so that permeates out into the culture of the folks that we're serving and leading. And a couple big things that are aspirational for Epic Impact is we've got an Epic Fest coming up in Q4, which is exciting. And we also have a lower tiered priced platform coming out that is a software plus content plus coaching modalities that will serve the abundant leadership core offering that we bring to our clients, that will be able to be accessible to all. And I'm really excited about being able to bring value to everybody. We've always been a higher ticket, higher value, really focused on delivering results to our clients type of company, and being able to offer something that just about anyone can receive value from, to me, is really inspiring, and will be a good part of the next 6 months. And offering that at Epic Fest is something that I'm personally really inspired to see, and it's going to take a whole team effort to manifest that and co-create that. And it's going to take a form of leadership from me that's my best version of leadership. So it gets me really excited to know that my core foundation of leading myself is going to allow me to lead the team that will allow others to be led, and the ripple effect of that really feels inspiring.
Yeah. So we'll talk about a CEO that I'd want to work for. I mean, when you hear things like, because typically when you ask people, hey, what's your goals, what's your aspirations, like, I'm going to make this amount of money by this date, and then I'm going to buy this mansion, and I'm going to have this yacht that I'm going to sell around in, and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, I really want to just be the best version of me, be a leader who helps other people be who they're truly meant to be, happily as leaders. That is a great answer, not what I think most CEOs would say. So I really appreciate you just being authentic, and that's the type of person that you're showing up to be every single day.
Absolutely. It's awesome. And I feel like you're the type of person that pulls that out of people too. And I feel like that's why we connect, is there's a likeness and values there around leadership and around caring about others and contributing to others that I just see in you as a core value of you. And I find that really inspirational.
Yeah, thank
about
you.
You too, man.
Thank you. So you've been working a lot with millennials.
Totally. Yeah.
What are you seeing different in millennials? What's some of the differences that they have versus, I think I would be part of the X generation.
For sure.
So I'm 79. So but what's different about millennials that you're seeing?
So there's here, let me talk about the good and the bad of one specific piece of millennials. So there's a boundlessness in the consciousness of millennials. So like millennials as a whole don't see limitations. Gen Xers as a whole like grew up under the shadow of baby boomers and like always had to earn their way.
That's right.
And millennials are like, I don't need to earn my way. I am just going to create the conditions where I can win. And so there's a boundlessness in their thinking. Now, this is a really positive thing to have human beings who have that American dream, entrepreneurial spirit of anything is possible. And I think this is one of the greatest gifts of the millennial generation. They were told by their parents as a whole, you can do and be and achieve whatever you want. And what a beautiful thing to the core of the culture of millennials is a belief system as a culture that we can co-create anything. And so I really believe that millennials are going to co-create some of the most powerful, innovative technology on the planet. Like we've seen that with Silicon Valley. I mean, like Mark Zuckerberg is, you can love him or hate him, but like he's a millennial, and like a lot of the, the top tech guys in the Bay are millennials, and they're innovating like crazy and trying to create world-changing paradigms in businesses and technology. So this is a really positive thing about the boundlessness. Now the challenge to that is that they also don't necessarily have boundaries because of that. They're not so much thinking about like real practical limitations that can exist. And if creation is done within a subset of boundaries, a subset of morals, a subset of values, then that unlimited capacity can really be unleashed. So we sometimes see millennials struggling with the fact that it's like, hey, you can do and be whatever you want. And so there they are kind of being and doing whatever they want. And it's kind of like there's this thinking that they can have their cake and eat it too, right? Like I can just like take a month off and also be a millionaire when I'm 20. But there's a real level of fortitude and value system required, and work ethic and contribution and value creation that's really imperative. And there's a really interesting like sense of self that a lot of millennials have. There's entitlement, and I think entitlement comes when you're told that you're great, but deep down inside there's a little insecurity of can I actually be great and produce great things. And insecurity plus kind of you can be and do whatever you want creates this entitlement of I need that given to me because I'm afraid that I can actually go out and produce that. I can go out and co-create that with others. So part of what's really important that I believe the good work is for millennials is helping them have healthy identities about themselves and helping them really know who they are so that the insecurities kind of melt away and the boundaries of like what are healthy ways of showing up as a leader can produce that unlimited potential.
Right.
That's what inspires me about millennials.
Awesome. Yeah. In the story of Mark Zuckerberg, I think about my generation was all about like, at least what I was taught is you go and you get your education. Yeah. You work your butt off in school. Totally. And once you graduate, you're going to get this corporate job. You work yourself up through the ladder, the corporate ladder, and then you're going to be secure and you'll have the money and the things and everything that you need. Mark Zuckerberg is at Harvard and he quits. Yeah. He quits Harvard to chase after what he believes he can create, which is, something that you talked about. I think you do a really good job of helping people get into a proper state or proper, energy to be the very best they can be. I saw you do that. So you came down and you trained my company at Solcius. And it was an awesome training. Thanks. And one of the things that stuck out to me is that, it was training a bunch of sales guys and sales leaders, and you had everybody jump up in energy, and we had a cheer and a chant that we'd get into. What have you seen that works for you, first off, and then what do you see that works for other people, just getting themselves into that right emotional state to just
Totally.
to take charge and do their thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I knew a lot of your guys had experienced like Tony Robbins, whether it was audiobooks or whatever. So I knew that was a place of rapport that we could do an energy adjustment. So I ended up going for that. But there's a practice that's called SRI, Somato Respiratory Integration. So.
And do you still say that you consistent with that practice every day?
Yeah. I mean, I even do it when I'm driving, when I'm just like noticing any tension or bound energy in my body. I just find myself like doing a little breathing exercise, whether it's a nose breath that just builds up chi and energy and gets my state kind of elevates my energy. It builds chi and builds life force in the body, and that could just be a hold that for a second. Just really let it in my body and then slowly let it out, and there's a state shift, and my physiology is different. There's more serotonin and dopamine in my brain because of that.
You just felt it just now, didn't you?
Yeah. Feels really good. And if I did that too much, I could even get like really high and euphoric. And so if there's times where I'm wanting to experience like love or ecstasis or come to a meeting and just really be in radiant amounts of energy, I can really leverage that.
Yeah.
So that's for me been a practice that I've really enjoyed myself, and it's subtle. It's not so woo like ha.
Make your move.
Make your move. But you know, if that's what works for you, I mean, I'm just a big proponent of people doing what feels true to them and what's alive for them and what speaks to their heart.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different methodologies out there.
Tony Robbins does an SRI every morning.
Yeah.
And has a practice that he follows now. It sounds like you do it. Is it pretty consistent every single morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could immediately, when you did that, I could feel it. I could feel the shift that happened right there. So it definitely works. That's awesome. Yeah. Cool. And I think maybe another time it'd be great to learn all those different techniques.
Totally.
And
that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so what's your vision for the planet as a whole? If you saw the world, people, what you would think would just be great, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, I would see us, and this probably is not going to happen in our particular lifetime, but I would see human beings like really co-creating with creation, and every single human being co-creating with each other and co-creating with creation. So like, what's the form of that I believe I can create right now, which is to like be co-creating with someone like you and co-creating with the Epic team. And co-creating is to me is about allowing source and another to allow something to be created that wasn't otherwise created.
Yeah.
It's like inspiration flowing through human beings and through our creator, allowing the life to be like so energetically. If there's this much anabolic energy on the planet, let's say there's this much catabolic energy, which catabolic energy is destroying, breaking down energy. Mm-hmm. So net there's more anabolic energy in the planet. Like things are seem to be getting better, and you know there's like another level of anabolic energy that we could use, another level of abundance that's accessible on the planet. So what feels real in my lifetime is to create cultures inside of organizations and help leaders steward in a new level of abundance and anabolic energy for the planet, where more human beings are able to give their gifts, be themselves, and be authentically the leaders they're here to be, and co-create new businesses, opportunities. And the UN has like their Big 17 initiative, like healing poverty and ending violence and all of these things. We could see that in our lifetime if people are really committed to stewarding levels of leadership that allow people from going to get something from themselves through catabolic energy, taking, breaking down, needing to consume or take, to co-creating and creating more anabolic energy on the planet. Means that there's more for everybody. It grows the pie, so to say, if you will. And actually less of the pie needs to be consumed, because we're not trying to do that energetic of consuming because that we don't feel whole and complete ourselves. Mm-hmm. That when people are really coming from an abundant place inside of their authentic selves, we're creating, not consuming. And I would love to leave a legacy where people are co-creating more on the planet with creation. That's what feels near and dear to my heart. And there's many different ways in which I see that happening, unfolding. And including being a great father like you, and which I'm not yet. So I really look up to you in that area.
Thank you.
But all the categories that you teach through your courses, I believe can use that level of energy, and that just ripples in eternity.
Yeah, and so different from the way you think most of the world is today, or what I've seen is especially in business. Most businesses think in terms of win-lose.
Yeah.
Like for me to get what I want, for me to win, somebody else has got to lose, and it's such a competitive, competition-filled environment. And really, what you're talking about is more of win-win.
Absolutely.
How can we uplift each other, and how can we do this together, and how can I help you create what it is that that you're here to do, and vice versa.
Yep.
Awesome. What makes you the most happy?
It's interesting. Gets me kind of emotional. I was actually just really joyful and happy. You probably noticed this at your son's soccer game, you know? Hanging out with children brings so much joy to my life, because you can just see the purity of their soul coming through, even if they're having a sad moment or a bummer moment, or if they're scoring a goal or something. Like, you can really see their essence come through them, and they're uninhibited. They're, you know, like if a kid's, you know, 5 to 7 years old, like, there's something really great because they haven't quite learned all the rules of the culture and what they should be doing and shouldn't be doing. So there's kind of spontaneous expressions of soul and emotion and curiosity. And so I find myself really finding joy, a lot of happiness. Like, I think children make me really happy.
You need to be a father.
I know, yeah, seriously.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. I didn't actually know that answer until you asked it. I mean, there's a lot of things that make me happy, but like, what makes you the most happy is a question of I actually never really pondered, and that was a really clear answer that came through. So,
awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Makes me think of when I was a child, right? When we were children.
Yeah.
We just lived in the moment.
It's so good. Yeah.
And we're just happy.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about the next business meeting or what I needed to do in this scenario or whatever, you know, how much money I needed to make. I was just happy just being me.
Exactly.
And just playing and having fun. And I think a lot of us, when we're able to experience that and be childlike, yeah, that's what makes me the most happy. I didn't think about that either. I love that.
I think one of the greatest gifts we can give a child is to just encourage them to be themselves. And if they're sad, they're sad. It's like, oh, why are you sad? Like, tell me about that. Like, and all of a sudden they're gonna like be like, oh, I'm be accepted for who I'm being in the moment. And that to me is
and a child will tell you while they're sad.
Right.
They're so honest.
Yeah. And I find it really interesting. It's like I'm one of these people who just, as a child, like, really felt like the culture of, you know, what kind of existed, like the being in the box and just like doing things as the status quo, like, didn't resonate with me as a child. So whenever someone would try to convince me that this being in the box kind of thing was a good idea, I would really rebel against that. And so I really just have this place in my heart for children to be like, who is this child, and what is their soul really wanting to be in the world? And you know, I see that in every single leader that I work with. Even if they're adult, there's a child in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
And loving that, their inner child, and so that more of their leader comes online and their authentic truth and gift and expression comes through, to me really is inspiring. And that's for, you know, every woman has a little girl inside of her that has feelings and aspirations and gifts that might have not been actualized, and every man has a little boy inside of himself that has the same. And I find like tapping into that with another is a really interesting practice. And so I really appreciate the question, and something to think about.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Jake, I've really appreciated this time, and I haven't shared this yet on this podcast, but I just want to let you know that you've been a mentor to me. You've been an example to me. You know, from the very first moment that I saw you up on stage and speaking in front of the group, I thought, wow, you carried so much power. But then when I got to know you on an individual, soul-to-soul level, I saw a brother, because I see someone who's genuinely honest, genuinely who just wants the best for other people. And I felt that from the get-go of, you just want the best for me as well.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate that in you, and I've appreciated this time. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the things you said about me, like I could say about you too. And it's like I'm really glad we're walking this path of life and business together. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
So, yeah.